Hi, I'm Nathan, 33, and I spent 2 years saving up to give my parents something unforgettable. I hired a private chef. Not a part-time meal prep guy, a full-on, Michelin-trained, white jacket, culinary wizard who came to their home every day and cooked them gourmet lunches and dinners. It was supposed to be their retirement splurge. A thank you for decades of second-hand furniture, homemade meals, and scraping by. They called me crying the first night. My mom said the lamb was so tender she didn't even use a knife. My dad texted me a photo of the salmon like it was a grandchild. I felt like a hero. Then I found out, from Instagram, of all places, that the same chef catered my sister's wedding. A wedding I wasn't invited to. The first time I saw the photos, I thought it was a joke. A repost. Some influencer wedding that just happened to look familiar. But no, there he was. Chef Julian. In his signature blue apron, plating hors d'oeuvres like edible origami. And there, in the background of a tagged story, was my mom, swirling wine and smiling like she was at the Emmys. That's when it hit me. This wasn't some upscale event the chef had booked on his own. This was my family. And my private chef. At my sister's wedding. A wedding I didn't know existed. I scrolled faster, heart in my throat. Tag after tag. Best night of our lives, congrats to the happy couple. Madison and Nick forever. I zoomed in on a group photo. My dad had a boutonniere. My cousin Jared was double-fisting champagne. Even great-aunt Laura was there, and she lives in a care facility 3 states away. But no Nathan. Not even in the background. Not even cropped. The next photo was a buffet table, fillets of sea bass, a carving station, handmade tortellini. At the far end was Julian, smiling for the camera with his arms crossed like a magician who just pulled off the final trick. I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at the screen, blinking through wave after wave of confusion, humiliation, and a weird, acidic grief I didn't know how to name. The next morning, I called Julian. Hey, I said, trying to sound casual. Saw some photos from the wedding this weekend. Looked amazing. Pause. Oh, he said. You mean Madison's? Another pause. I thought you knew. Nope. I didn't. I didn't know she was engaged. I didn't know there was a wedding. I didn't know that while I was Venmoing Julian every month for my parents' gourmet experience, they were regifting it, turning it into a marquee feature for an event I was specifically excluded from. Julian was quiet. Then he said, Your mom asked me not to mention it. Said it was a delicate situation. Right. A delicate situation. Like serving your son's heart on a canopy tray. I hung up and sat there on my couch, staring at nothing for 10 full minutes. Then I opened my family group chat and typed one word. Wow. No one responded. That night my mom called. Honey, she said. Let's not make this a thing. I didn't say anything. You know how Madison is, she continued. She didn't want any drama. Just a small thing with close friends. No pressure, no expectations. Except for the chef, I said. And the venue. And the four-tier cake. And the custom cocktails. She sighed. You're making this about money. I laughed. Like actually laughed out loud. No, I said. You did that when you used my gift, the chef I still pay for, to make Madison's wedding unforgettable while pretending I don't exist. She got quiet. Then she said something that made my stomach turn. We didn't think you'd want to come. That was it. Not, we regret how this looks. Not, we should have invited you. Not, we're sorry. Just, we didn't think you'd want to come. Like I'm some bitter hermit who can't be trusted not to start a food fight. Like I haven't been at every family holiday, every birthday, every emergency call. Like I haven't loaned Madison $6,000 2 years ago to cover her lease break when she left Nick the first time. Yeah. Forgot about that, didn't they? That night, I logged into Julian's billing portal. The last invoice, paid in full. By me. For the month of the wedding. $3,200. That covered the wedding week. I called my mom back the next morning. Chef's cancelled, I said. He's been paid through Friday. After that, you're on your own. She gasped like I just unplugged her ventilator. You can't be serious, she said. I am. But it's been such a joy. I'm sure it was. Especially when you served it on gold-rimmed plates and pretended I didn't exist. Nathan. Don't worry, I said. You've still got those photos. Just print them out and lick them when you're hungry. I hung up. And for the first time in months, I exhaled. 3 days later, my sister called me for the first time in 9 months. The last time I'd heard her voice was when she borrowed the $6,000, and even then, it was mostly sobs and, "Nick doesn't deserve me." Now she sounded calm. Triumphant. Like someone who just finished a chore chart and wants a sticker. "Nate," she said, "this has gotten blown way out of proportion." I didn't say anything. "You're mad. I get that. But this wasn't some plot to hurt you. You planned a wedding," I said. "Had time to order hand-calligraphed menus and monogrammed cocktail napkins, but not to send a text?" A pause. "It was a really tight guest list." "Right. So tight you had room for Cousin Phil, who once projectile vomited on the family dog." She exhaled. I could hear her weighing which script to follow, I'm the victim or I'm the bride. She chose both. "You've always made things about you, Nate. Ever since we were kids. It was never enough for you to be generous. You had to be praised for it. The chef wasn't a gift. It was a performance." That one cut deep. I don't know if you've ever been slapped through a phone line, but that's what it felt like. A performance? I'd spent years tightening my budget. Passed on a better car. Lived with the same IKEA couch since grad school. All to afford something special for the people who raised us. And now it was being recast like a TED Talk on performative virtue. "That chef cooked for you," I said slowly. "With ingredients I paid for. During an event I wasn't told about. That's not a performance. That's theft." "God, Nathan," she snapped. "It was one meal." "Right," I said. "Just one meal. Plus the planning, shopping, prep, and execution. Plus the food truck-style oyster bar he set up in the garden. You think Julian just happened to have a shucking station in his glove box?" Silence. Then she dropped the kicker. "Mom told me not to invite you." I blinked. She said it would complicate things. That you always have this energy. My energy paid for your risotto. I said it too fast. Too sharp. But I was done playing defense. For 33 years I'd been the solid one, the good son, the logistics guy. The one who fixed cars, rewired lamps, showed up with tarps and jumper cables and invoices. Now I was just the line item they hid when company came over. She sighed. "I didn't want this to be ugly. I thought maybe you'd just let it go." Let it go. Let it go. Like I was the problem. Like I was clinging to some irrational grudge because I wasn't gifted a slice of mushroom crostini and a seat at the family-only table, which, by the way, included 2 co-workers, a neighbor from book club, and a dog with its own name tag. "I'm sending you an invoice," I said. "What?" "For the chef. You used a service I paid for without my consent. That's theft." "Are you serious?" "As serious as your wedding hashtag." She gasped. "You are unbelievable." "No," I said. "I just finally believe you." I hung up. That afternoon, I typed up a professional invoice and sent it to her email. Service rendered, private chef services used without permission. Amount, $3,200. Terms, payment due in 14 days. Failure to pay will result in small claims court filing. I CC'd my parents. An hour later my mom called. I let it ring. Then my dad. Then Madison again. By dinner, I had 27 missed calls. And 1 new voicemail, from Julian. "Hey," he said. "I've been getting texts from your mom. Just want you to know, I support you 100%. I'm also rescinding my contract with them, effective immediately. What they did was wrong. And not for nothing, but the sea base? Overcooked. Your dad insisted on an extra 20 minutes. Just thought you should know." For the first time in a week I smiled. I filed in small claims court on a Thursday. Cost me $68 and about 40 minutes of explaining to a very tired-looking clerk why I was charging my sister $3,200 for a wedding I didn't attend. She used the service you were paying for? Yes. Without asking? Correct. And your parents enabled it. The clerk blinked, typed something, then said, "We've had worse." I walked out holding a stamped notice with the court date 6 weeks out. Felt like a punch and a trophy in one. I'd never sued anyone in my life, not over rent, not over fender benders. But this wasn't about the money. Not really. It was about the principle. You don't get to pretend I don't exist while eating halibut I paid for. That weekend, my cousin Jared texted me a photo of a wedding favor, a miniature glass jar filled with custom spice blend from Chef Julian. Dude! You weren't joking. Nope. I asked him to send me the tag. It said, "Love is the secret ingredient. Madison and Nick. Catering by Julian H. Our brother's amazing gift. Thanks, Nate." That last part? The part that almost sounded like gratitude? Printed in a font so small it was basically microscopic. I posted the photo on my Instagram story with no caption. Just let it sit there. A few hours later, I got a DM from one of Madison's bridesmaids. "Girl, what's going on? She said you were too emotionally unstable to come." Right. Emotionally unstable. Because nothing says instability like paying for 18 months of duck confit and saying, "Hey, maybe I should have been invited to the party I unknowingly funded." On Tuesday, I got a certified letter from my parents. That's right, an actual letter. It read, "Dear Nathan, we're saddened that things have escalated to this point. Taking your sister to court over what was, in our eyes, a family misunderstanding feels hurtful and disproportionate. We understand you're feeling excluded, but please consider that Madison's wedding day was about her, not you. As for the chef, Julian offered to help as a gift to the family. We didn't realize you felt so possessive about it. We hope you'll reconsider this path before it causes irreparable damage. Love. Mom and Dad." A gift. They called it a gift. The same gift I was still paying $800 per month for. I forwarded the letter to Julian. He called me within the hour. They said what? You heard me. Nathan, he said, and I'll never forget this part. They tried to book me again. For Thanksgiving. Asked if I'd do turkeys. Said you wouldn't mind, now that everything's in the past. I blinked. Did you accept? I told them I'm unavailable. Permanently. Thanks. And FYI. He added, if you need a witness for court, I'm happy to testify. I have the dates, the menus, and my own invoices. I know exactly which week the wedding food was prepared. And I've got texts from your mom asking for extra sides for the big event. I stared at my phone like it had grown wings. I didn't think I'd actually win the case. But now, I had receipts. Literal and emotional. Still, the part that broke me wasn't legal. It was this: 3 weeks into the fallout, I got a handwritten note. Not from Madison. Not from my parents. From my grandma. She's 86. Sharp as a tack. Writes in cursive like she's narrating a Ken Burns documentary. Dear Nathan, I don't understand the internet drama, and I don't want to. But I saw the photos. And I noticed who wasn't in them. I also noticed who was paying for the food. Your mother told me. She said it just made sense. But sweetheart, being useful does not mean being invisible. You have every right to be hurt. And every right to want accountability. I made you your favorite banana bread. No walnuts this time. I'll leave it on the porch. With love. Grandma. I cried for the first time since the wedding. Not because of the betrayal. But because someone finally saw me. The court date arrived like a storm cloud that just parked itself over my week. I showed up in the same navy suit I wore to job interviews, funerals, and that one friend's wedding where I caught the bouquet and dislocated a finger. It didn't feel like a victory outfit. But it felt right. Madison showed up 20 minutes late, in a cream blazer and heels that clicked too hard across the linoleum. Her husband, Nick, came too, carrying a manila folder and the expression of a guy who just realized the honeymoon phase ended at the caterer's invoice. My parents didn't come. which was probably the most honest thing they'd done in weeks. The judge was a woman in her 60s with a face that had seen things. She peered at us over glasses that made her look like she'd raised 6 kids and banned glitter in her house for life. "All right," she said. "We're here today regarding a small claims case filed by Mr. Nathan Fields against Ms. Madison Fields Cortez in the amount of $3,200 for unauthorized use of a private chef service. Parties, state your claims." I stood. Clear. Steady. "Your Honor," I said, "I hired and paid for a private chef service for my parents. It was a surprise gift. I continued paying for it monthly. I was not invited to my sister's wedding. I did not know about the wedding. But my chef, the one I pay for, was used to cater it. The cost of that week's service, used for the event, came to $3,200. I was not informed. I did not consent. I am requesting reimbursement for that service." Madison stood next. "Your Honor," she began with a practiced sigh. "This was a misunderstanding." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Explain the misunderstanding." "My mom said Nathan gifted the chef to the family." "The whole family." I turned. "You told people I gave you a private chef for general use?" Madison ignored me. It was a hectic time. Weddings are emotional. I didn't realize he'd be upset. Julian offered to help. "Julian," the judge said. "That's the chef?" I nodded. "Julian Harmon." He submitted a signed affidavit. Along with the week's menu, service invoice, and text screenshots where my mother requested wedding-specific plating and table presentation. The judge flipped through the file like she was thumbing a menu at a bad diner. "And you, Ms. Fields Cortez, were aware that the chef was not hired specifically for your wedding?" "I thought he offered." She mumbled. The judge looked at her. Then at me. "Mr. Fields, what outcome are you seeking?" "Just the amount for that week's service," I said. $3,200. Nothing extra. No pain and suffering. No emotional damages. Just the price of being erased and eaten at the same time. The judge nodded. Judgment in favor of the plaintiff. Defendant is ordered to reimburse the full $3,200 within 14 days. Case closed. Bang. That was it. No fanfare. No fireworks. Just the hard, unambiguous sound of someone finally saying, "This wasn't okay." Madison didn't look at me. Nick did. And it wasn't anger in his face. It was exhaustion. A man suddenly aware he was legally married to an unpaid catering invoice. Outside, in the parking lot, I found a yellow envelope on my windshield. No name. No handwriting. Just folded once. Inside was a check. $3,200. 00. From my mother's joint account with my dad. No note. No. "We're sorry." Just a sterile refund, like I'd returned a pair of shoes that didn't fit. But on the back of the check, in faint ballpoint pen, someone had scribbled a message. "You didn't have to take it this far." I stared at it. Then I wrote my own message. "You didn't have to take it this far." And I mailed it back. Uncashed. Because I didn't want their money. I wanted the one thing they refused to give me. A seat at the damn table. 2 weeks after the court ruling, my sister went full PR mode. She posted an Instagram story from her yoga mat with the caption, "Some people will invoice their way out of your life. And that's okay. Protect your peace." Dizzy nail polish. A day later, my mom uploaded a Facebook album titled, "A Love-Filled Wedding, No Drama, Just Family." In one of the photos, my dad is giving a toast. His arms up, his eyes are glossy, and the caption says, "We are so proud of our beautiful daughter and her future. Family is everything." Family. That word had started to taste like a lie I was too polite to spit out. The check I mailed back came again. Certified mail this time. Same $3,200. Same note on the back, rewritten in neater penmanship. "Nathan, let's not keep dragging this out. Consider it closure. Mom." I left it on my kitchen counter for a week. Then I burned it. Not out of rage. Out of clarity. Because that money wasn't clean. It wasn't accountability. It was hush money with an apology-sized hole in the middle. And then, something strange happened. Silence. No calls. No messages. No text asking for help moving furniture or just a quick peek at your taxes. For the first time in my adult life, I was not being used, consulted, or drafted for a family favor. It was glorious. And it was also lonely. Because I wasn't just cut off from my parents and sister, I was cut off from the version of me who always played the role of fixer son. And when that character leaves the stage, the silence isn't applause. It's just quiet. Then, about a month later, I got a voicemail. It wasn't from my parents. It was from Julian. Hey man, I know this might sound weird, but I got an offer. A client in Napa. It's a residency thing, private chef for a vineyard estate. They asked for references and said your name came up. I wanted to ask if it's okay to pass it along. Also, thank you for how you handled everything. Most people would have made it nasty. You stayed classy. That's rare. I called him back. Told him of course use my name. He deserved it. 2 days later, I got a handwritten thank you note from his partner, a sweet guy named Leo who once made me a lemon tart after I complimented his scarf. The note ended with, P.S. Thank you for funding the most unintentionally iconic wedding menu we've ever done. I still dream about that lavender duck. It was the first time someone thanked me for the food. The first time the joke didn't land like a blade. That same week, I got a text from my grandma. Just a photo of a pie. No caption. Just the pie. Apple. Slightly burned edges. Cooling on a windowsill like a Norman Rockwell painting, if Rockwell painted women who ran out of patience with everyone except their grandsons. I texted back. Got plates? She responded instantly. Got bourbon. We ate the pie with 2 forks straight from the tin. She never once said I told you so. She just refilled my glass and said, families don't have to be fair. But they do have to be honest. And then, like she was asking if I wanted whipped cream, she added, you're allowed to stop showing up for people who only clap when it's their turn. That night, I made a new group chat. Just 3 people, me, Grandma, and Julian. I titled it, People Who Actually Show Up. The first message I sent? A photo of a frozen lasagna still in the box, with the caption, Guess who's cooking now? Julian replied with 3 puking emojis and a recipe for something involving sage and regret. Grandma just wrote, don't poison yourself. I only have one of you. I haven't spoken to my parents since the wedding. The check was their last word. And maybe that's how it ends, not with a confrontation, not with forgiveness, but with a void. And sometimes, a void is safer than another wound. Madison still posts. Sometimes she tags Nick. Sometimes she doesn't. Once, she posted a quote that said, your vibe attracts your tribe. I scrolled past. Because I have my tribe now. It's small. It smells like bourbon and pie crust. It texts back. It says thank you. It doesn't treat generosity like a default setting you can steal from. So no, I didn't get a toast at the wedding. But I got something else. A new recipe for peace. And it doesn't include them.